goodness, maybe on time doing something. Wowie. I could be on time. Goodness. It's craziness. Oh, there was somewhere else I was going to say. Oh. I can't remember anymore. I feel like there was somewhere else I was going to say. Anyway. Let's go here and save. Close. Play. Play.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? But that's a doggone season that he won't try something new. A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Stockton Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere, on this planet Earth, the only one that we have, third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect. TKE tonight, actually, with you for the Thursday, the 5th of December, 2024. 1 month from now, I will be coming to you as a married man. But I would say this. Just a day less than a month. Don't worry, Kristen still got time to come to her senses. Anything can happen. Kristen still has time to come to her senses. Anything could happen. George, you may not see on screen, he is with us in the chat, monitoring all the chats, making sure that our audio and video is being shared and is visible and audible in all of the places that it is supposed to be. The computer has now upgraded to the point where he can no longer program something that we hope to be able to share. I should say that we hope to be able to fix after the new year. We're trying. That's all I can say. We're trying. So I keep asking you about the GoFundMe. It's just, what can I tell you? In fact, I have to ask him a question right now. So the program is live. It is 8:06 Eastern Standard Time. And might I mention to you that winter has arrived here in the Lehigh Valley. Now, look, we're very, very fortunate. We have listeners quite literally all around the globe. Obviously, the overwhelming preponderance of those are inside the United States, but we do have listeners literally all around this humble planet Earth of ours. So, what I'm about to say to you, if you are terribly far away from us, may not make too much sense. If you are in our region, however, in the Northeast region, it may make sense to you. Or I happen to see Jeremy is in the chat, and welcome, sir. You might see what I see, at least at the beginning of the evening. You know that I fancy myself a very, very amateur astronomer. There's a really cool alignment outside right now. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's really very neat. The moon is maybe about 30 degrees above the horizon, with Venus about 5 degrees below the moon. And then as you would look up at them, they are maybe this far apart. Now, for those of you who are on the radio, I had my pointer finger and thumb about 2 inches apart. It's very cold out, at least where we are. It's extremely windy out. I wouldn't recommend going out and looking at it for too long, because it's just damn uncomfortable outside. But I happen to find these really neat astronomical alignments to be really neat. And I think they're worthy of a look. I find the fact that we are just one astronomical body floating in the vastness of space amongst countless other astronomical bodies to be a fascinating thing. When we sometimes seem to mire ourselves in the fact that Kim Kardashian bought a new pair of jeans, when you look up into the heavens, into the sky, to see just how small we are, it does sometimes tend to put things into perspective. So I just think it's a very beautiful thing. I think it's a very humbling thing. I think scientifically it's a very neat thing. But if you can just take a step outside. It's about 30 degrees above the horizon, not terribly far above a house roof line, maybe another 10 degrees or so above a house roof line, and then Venus is about 5 degrees below that. The moon and Venus, and again, they're about that far from each other on your hand, about a thumb and forefinger away from each other for the audio audience. This is the Kennedy Effect TKE tonight for the 5th of December, 2024. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, the TCP Media Group, Our Revolution, Pennsylvania, my own Facebook page, Jeff Kennedy, my glorious name. I'm kidding, it's not that glorious. My name is right there in the bottom left-hand corner. and of course, our home group Facebook page for all things that surround our program. And that is called That Other Side of Information. That also happens to be the name of our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. If you ever miss any of our programs, that's the best place to go. They are live there. You could watch us there right now if you wanted to. And they are recorded there. When we're done, that's the best place to go back and watch them if you ever miss anything. YouTube.com/That Other Side of Information. We are live on Twitch right now. Jeff R. Kennedy. There's an R in the middle there. That's the best place to find us, because believe it or not, I think if I remember correctly, George will correct me in the chat. When we went to create our Twitch, there was another Jeff Kennedy. We had to differentiate ourselves somehow, so we stuck a middle initial. We're live, of course, on our LinkedIn as well, which is Jeff Kennedy. The audio of the program blasting around the globe via GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio .live, GCPR.live. Go to our website, find out everything you ever needed to know about GCPR and more. Yesterday, actually, well, no, it would have been Sunday, December 1st, would have been our August, September, November, would have been our 4-month birthday. We've made it an entire third of a year. Our 4-month birthday would have been Sunday, December 1st. I'm surprised I didn't think of that on Tuesday. It's very strange. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. But check out GCPR. GCPR.live. The website recently redesigned. It's extremely easy to use. We invite you to go there. Find out about all the programming at GCPR. Find out about the hosts. Find out about you can listen there. You can listen there for free. You don't have to pay anything to listen to us at our website. You don't even need to create a login. You don't need a credit card imprint. You don't need anything. You just open up the website, go to the upper right-hand corner, if I'm not mistaken. There is a triangle there that looks like a play button on an old I'm dating myself. I was going to say an old cassette player. Dating myself there a little bit. But there's a play button there. Hit that and you're listening. Piece of cake. Speaking of GCPR, immediately following us at 9 p.m. Eastern, Superplex Party comes your way. Conversations with T. Nathan. And T. Nathan I saw in the chat. Welcome, T. Nathan. Welcome to the program, T. Nathan in the chat. The star, the big man himself. T. Nathan in the chat. Conversations with T. Nathan comes your way from 11 p.m. Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. with the sound of coffee to wrap up the broadcast, or his broadcast week. Of course, T. Nathan will be back tomorrow night as well. He kind of wraps up the broadcast week, I guess you'd say, really, if you think about it. Now, listen, our Sunday program. We will be with you on Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. only. I have to fulfill my duties as a state committee person. I have a meeting at 7 p.m. that I must Zoom into. At least I can Zoom into it. That's good. I can be with you for a little bit, fulfill my obligations to you here on the radio. But it'll be a shortened program. And a special hello, by the way. A special hello to everyone listening outside the country. Hello, 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 and welcome, and please spread the word. So thank you to everybody for hanging in there. Let's do a quick scan over the chat. See if I missed anything. Mike, Mike, for all of his telling me about how I'm always doom scrolling. Using the theme song, Bad Taste to remind me of when there was hope. Well, yeah, but everything that's old is new again. It is a reminder of when there was hope. It is a reminder of when this country was a better country. It is a reminder of when the New Deal was fully implemented. But let it be a reminder of something to strive for yet again. One of my favorite Kennedy quotes, and there's certainly a lot of them. But my favorite part of the quote is not the part that everybody's focuses on. It's the second part of the quote. It's from the moonshot speech. We choose to go to the moon and do the other thing. Well, NASA just announced today, actually, that it's going to delay its moonshot yet again. Its return to the moon yet again. That will put it a full 17 months behind its originally planned date to land again on the moon. And I suspect with Trump having nominated a billionaire whose only experience, a billionaire to head NASA. He's actually he has roots here in Pennsylvania. His only experience with administering anything is he was a hedge fund guy. His only experience with NASA, he has no experience with NASA. His only experience with science is, he has no experience with science. His only experience with space is that he paid Jeff Bezos twice to go on a Blue Origin rocket. But we're going to put him in charge of NASA. I suspect with having someone like that in charge of NASA, we may never return to it. And let's remember, with Musk now in charge of this top to bottom examination of what government should be spending money on and what the private sector should be spending money on, and what government money should be handed over to the private sector, I suspect NASA will be on the chopping block of Elon Musk because, by the way, he runs a space company. And he would much rather have your money given to him to do things in space instead of the government doing it directly. Private sector does not do anything cheaper than the government because they have a profit motive. Mr. Musk is not going to build a base on the moon cheaper than the government would do it because he wants to make money. He may do some steps along the way less expensive. Well, actually, he wouldn't do them less expensive. He would do them cheaper, meaning cut corners, lesser materials, less people, because he wants to make money. People love to scream about government running like a business. Government was never meant to run like a business. It doesn't mean that there aren't business principles that government can adopt. There certainly are. There are also governmental business principles that business could adopt. But government was never meant to run like a business. The framers never intended government to run like a business because it has no profit motive. It also controls monetary policy. Businesses don't control monetary policy. So there's that. Mike, you're right. It does harken back to a better time. But instead of wallowing over it, and I'm guilty of it too, we should look back at that time and want to see it again. And we should stand up, stiffen our backs, and fight to see it again. Jeremy, the head of America One Radio, is here. Welcome back, sir. Proud to be part of America One, even in a, I want to say an ancillary way. I'm groping for a word. What a surprise. I'm missing a word. We'll discuss more America One in the future. I'm proud to be part of America One. Let's put it that way. And I suspect it will only become a bigger part. A hello to Randall and to Donna. Of course, I mentioned T. Nathan is here. Really thrilled when T. Nathan has a chance to tune in. T. Nate is a super busy guy. I don't know how he does everything that he does. Mike mentions that he is exceptionally popular on Pluto. Okay. I will take that as intended. T. Nathan mentions that it's cold where he is. I don't doubt it. It is. I'll tell you what. It is really cold, and I'm not prepared for it. And the older I get, the cold bothers me more and more and more. We had a stretch here in PA this summer where from about mid-June until about the middle of August, almost 2 solid months, where it was either literally 100 degrees or it felt like it was 100 degrees for almost 2 straight months. So the actual air temperature was 100 degrees or it felt like it. And I was better during those times than I am when it's in the 30s and 20s, the older that I get. Donna mentions it's 22 degrees where she is, with 17-mile-an-hour winds, I think she said. We've had some 30 and 40-mile-an-hour winds blowing here today. Randall mentions, can you believe Elon Musk's policy won from Trump's administration to do away with daylight savings time? That's actually a debate that's been happening for years and years and years. Daylight savings time actually goes back to when there was the U.S. was largely an agrarian society where the farmers needed the daylight hours changed, and then it was continued up into when busing became a big deal. You had kids going to school in the dark. It really isn't needed anymore. But anyway, Mike mentions it's raining and cold. Something about Mercury. I'm not sure what's happening there. I'm trying to just get through some of these. T. Nathan says he can do everything because he cloned himself. You're gonna have to tell me how that happened because I wouldn't mind doing that myself. What I wanted to talk about tonight, let me get into the heart of the program here. I've only blown about 20 minutes here. What I wanted to get into tonight is not necessarily one specific news item, but rather I had the ability to work from home today. It's kind of a nice part of my job. I don't particularly like my job. I don't particularly enjoy it. The people I work with are fantastic. They're some of the nicest, most genuine people I've ever worked with. The job itself isn't particularly enjoyable. I don't make any particular difference. The world is not a better place when I'm done at the end of the day than it was when I started. I don't teach anybody anything. It's not I've had some jobs in the past that make real differences in people's lives. Either because I get to train them on skills or I get to really improve business functions, operations, safety. I don't do any of that anymore. The people I work with are fantastic. The job itself is not. But I do get to work from home, which is something I've really never done in my life because the positions that I've had have always required that I be on site. They're not the kind of jobs that I can do from a distance. But this one does. And what comes along with that, and the nice thing is that my management has told me is that I am particularly what's the word I'm looking for? Productive. That they see there's no drop off whatsoever in my daily productivity when I'm home compared to when I'm in the office. And what I think is pretty cool when I'm home, though, is that I will put noise on in the background. Our office is painfully quiet. There's no music. We can't listen to anything. It's very quiet. I understand why. I don't always agree with it, but I understand it. It's very understandable. And by the way, I'm not in a position where anybody needs me to agree with them. It's not a prerequisite that they agree with me. Goodness knows. But when I'm home, I will put noise on in the background. And when things are quiet, my ear will drift toward it. And it kind of breaks up the monotony of the day, and it does seem to make the day pass a little quicker. So I listened to Thomas this morning from 8 to 10. Then I listened to Stephanie Miller. Then Tom Hartman. And then I go back to sports with Michael Kay, and that's the end of the day. And throughout Thomas's program and Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman today, the kind of theme that I seem to pick up throughout the day is the kind of where we used to be. And it's interesting that Mike made the comment that he made about the theme music, that he made the comment that he made, because he actually led me into the kind of topic that he wanted to talk about. And I hope that T. Nathan hangs for this, that what I heard throughout the day, not in so many words, was this kind of theme of impending doom. And even that description of it doesn't really nail it. It was kind of this, well, look at these cabinet appointments. Well, look at this court case. Well, look at this. Look at the way NATO is preparing. Look at what Canada's doing. Look at what Mexico is doing. Look at how these countries are getting ready for what's coming. Look at where we used to be. Look at what our country used to be. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Because there was a very, and Jeremy, if he's still here, will probably have heard this through the day. So Tom Hartman, as you well know, is kind of my radio hero. Going back to when I very first started listening to him, Bernie Sanders used to be a weekly guest on his program. And at the end of the hour that Bernie used to spend with him every week, Bernie would say that democracy is not a spectator sport. Get in there and do something. And Tom seems to have returned to that recently because the Democratic Party obviously is at a crossroads. It's time for progressives to get inside the party and remake it. The greatest eras of success within the Democratic Party have been when the progressives have led it. And these are not impossible things to do. Any registered Democrat is welcome inside the party. The national party rules demand it. And let's not forget that there will be a new DNC chair election in February. I look forward to speaking to the DNC representatives from Pennsylvania as to whom they'll be. I will sure as hell give them my 2 cents about who they need to be thinking about. And should they vote differently, I will give them my 4, 6, 8, 10, 20 cents, dollars, $200 million of opinion about who they support. And it's these types of conversations that led Tom Hartman to talk about what I think is a really almost singularly encompassing factoid, if you will, about where we were pre-Reagan, pre-Fox, to where we are now. So Tom Hartman is 73 years old. He was born in 1951. And you can just Google this stuff and look it up. It's not like I'm giving away, anything terribly private about the man that isn't readily available. And by the way, he wouldn't know me if he bumped into me. When he was 30 years old, it was 1981, just when Reagan took power. So that generation of Americans that were in their 30s in 1981, at that particular point in time, so if you were in your 30s in the early 1980s, and I'm sorry for the sniffling, I have a cold. So right at that particular point in time, that generation, if you will, they owned 2/3 of the wealth in this country. And that was as a direct result of the New Deal. 2/3 of the country was middle class. Not only did 2/3 of the country self-identify as middle class, they were, by actual governmental standards, middle class. Okay? We good on that so far? Because it's a lot of numbers. Not that you're not smart people, but it's a lot of numbers. And I don't happen to have a Katie Porter whiteboard with me. I actually do have a whiteboard, but I don't have a good place to put it. And they think most of my markers are crap. And they don't have the budget to replace them. It's just the truth. That said, fast forward 44 years later. If you're in your 30s now, I realize that there's about a 10-second delay, so it's hard to ask this question of you. But if you're in the chat right now, would you hazard a guess as to how much wealth a generation that's in their 30s now, how much of the nation's wealth that generation controls now? Remember, it was about 2/3 44 years ago. So if you're in your 30s now, in 2024, any idea what percentage of the country's wealth that generation holds now? It's under 5%. You know how many people? T. Nathan guessed 8%. It's close. Under the rules of The Price is Right, you would lose, sir. Closest without going over. I'm kidding, only a little, on a very serious subject. Ella Marie, it was a new name. I don't know you, Ella. Welcome, 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 welcome. Please don't be a stranger. Please come back. Please be a regular. Forgive me, ma'am, that I don't recognize you. Everybody's a little high. It's less than 5%. The number of people now, the percentage of the American public that self-identify. And remember, we always have a more inflated, not in economic terms, not in the economic sense. We always have a more self-inflated sense of our economic well-being than we do by actual governmental standards. The percentage of Americans that self-identify as middle class is now about 47%. It's the lowest it's been since World War II. The amount of money through just the income taxes alone, just the income tax cuts, not the incentives to ship manufacturing overseas, the offshore tax havens, the capital gains tax cuts, and all of that. Just the income tax cuts alone on the top 1% has transferred nearly $60 trillion from the bottom 99% to the top 1%. If we include all of the other types of tax cuts and tax incentives, such as the incentives for moving manufacturing jobs overseas, capital gains tax cuts, so on and so on and so on. The estimate is it could be as high as $100 trillion. And the realization that we have to come to is that this was the plan all along. And there are so many different realizations that we must come to from that realization. And some of them are very uncomfortable. As a lifelong Democrat and progressive, one of those realizations is that my party has not done nearly enough to stop it. The only president in the post-Reagan era to talk about ending trickle-down economics is Joe Biden. And we kicked him off the ticket. Bernie Sanders talked about a second New Deal. And we made sure he didn't get a nomination. Even Al Gore, who certainly wasn't the most progressive guy on the planet, but talked about an economic revitalization and a vast expansion of the middle class through the lens of climate change. The Green New Deal before Green New Deal was a catchphrase. And so what does all of this have to do with where we are now? Well, what seemed to be the big story of the day was the apology and what seems to be happening at MSNBC. the Morning Joe apology. That David Frum, made the joke that, Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth was commonly known while on the job, on camera at Fox News, as being completely intoxicated. And that staff members at Fox News complained that he was completely intoxicated. Some didn't just complain, they were legitimately worried for his health, as kind human beings usually are. David Frum made a very flippant joke saying that if you're drunk enough for Fox folks to worry about you, you must be pretty drunk. Morning Joe then, of course, apologized for the comment. It then got labeled. Mr. Frum then wrote an article about the climate of fear that MSNBC is now feeling. Well, them apologizing for his joke, combined with the fact that Joe and Mika flew to Mar-a-Lago, kissed the ring, all being this climate of fear. And that Mr. Trump's FCC nominee, whose name I don't even know, and who doesn't appear to have been named anywhere, which is very strange, has talked about attacking media outlets and shutting them down. Kash Patel, the FBI nominee, even though we have an FBI director, by the way, has talked about the enemies list, prosecuting the prosecutors, investigating the investigators, investigating progressive groups. And one might think, and I can understand why some of you might think this, what does trickle-down economics and massive tax cuts have to do with the impending fascism that seems to be about 7 weeks away? Elon Musk is worth about $270 billion. He could buy every media outlet in the country. Like, literally every single one of them. And still have money left over. He could buy them, just shut them down. He could buy MSNBC and shut the doors. He could buy NBC and just shut the doors. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post, supposedly to save it. And for the first several years that he owned it, he did save it. And he stayed out of the way. And he digitized it. He made it a successful. He took a traditional newspaper and digitized it. He took people who only knew how to buy a piece of paper and people whose fingers got black from reading and taught people how to look up a device and read it. But now he's started to stick his hands in the Post and what they can and cannot report on. He's reported today as saying he met with Trump. And he's just so optimistic about what's going to happen in this administration. Well, no shit he is. He's going to get a tax cut. Because at the end of the day, that's all he cares about. about 150 billionaires spent $20 billion on the Trump campaign in 2024. Not Senate campaigns, not House campaigns, not state legislative campaigns. On the Trump campaign. You might think to yourself, gosh, that's an awful lot of money. Well, it is. It's a tremendous amount of money. I wish I had 1/10 of 1% of it, which I think would be about $2 million if my math is correct. I'd gladly take it. It would be life-changing money to me. Be 10% of it, 10% of 20 billion, 2 billion, would be generationally changing money to me. But again, when you're Elon Musk and you're worth 270 billion, 20 billion is pocket change. So when 150 billionaires spend 20 billion, it's nothing to them. Especially when that 20 billion is going to net you a minimum of 6 trillion in tax cuts. So then, now you got another 6 trillion where you can take 1/100th% to turn back into more Republican campaigns and to buy more judgeships, judiciary seats. See how the cycle works. Here's another quick little factoid that you might think to yourself doesn't connect, but it does. It's all part of the same line. It's a straight line from Nixon's Southern strategy to Buckley versus Vallejo to Reagan's welfare queens to firing the air traffic controllers to Bush v. Gore to the illegal Second Iraq War. It's a straight line. A meat packing plant in Iowa was just raided by the federal government and shut down for the second time, which means they did this before. They were caught before by federal authorities because the state authorities did nothing. Because children were working in the plant cleaning meat processing equipment. Children. For the second time in 6 months. Because state officials did nothing in red Iowa. I'm trying really hard not to say this. Because gosh, you wanted to all know that. In red state Iowa, the feds had to come in and shut down a meat packing plant for the second time in 6 months because they were employing, quote unquote, children. By the way, just as a small aside, Project 2025 seeks to eliminate child labor laws. Eliminate. So Mike's comment at the beginning of this program is a salient one. The theme song reminds us of better days. Our decision now, as a national community, as a society, is will we see those better days again? Or do we roll over? Another symptom of where we seem to be now as a nation is all of this uproar, all of this consternation. We've been hearing about President Biden's pardon of his son. Democrats can no longer play by a rule book that the book burners have long since burned. I'm not advocating lawlessness. I am not advocating unconstitutionality. We simply cannot play by rules that are no longer being followed. It is time to, I believe it was Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas who said that we have to stop bringing butter knives to an active war zone where the Republicans have AR-15. And I may very well have butchered her quote, but I think I'm close. But she's also correct. We'll spend more time on the upcoming election for DNC chair. In one of the really cool things about a parliamentary system is the shadow government, the idea of the shadow government. The party that is not in power will have a shadow government. So in the UK right now, the Labour Party is in control. So the Conservative Party, the Tories, have a shadow government. The head of the Tory party is in oh, Mike, for Christ's effing sake. No, Mike, the 1860s, prior to Civil War. Name me a year where there wasn't something that wasn't just quite utopia. Good Christ. Is there ever anything that's effing perfect for you? My God. I wonder what the hell you listen to this for sometimes. Not a goddamn thing I say is right. What do you listen to this for? Do you think I don't know there was racial strife in the 60s? There's racial strife now. There's genocide happening in the Middle East. What dear God. T. Nathan mentions that Americans are tired of us bringing a butter knife to a real fight. I think they are, and I think that's part of why there was a percentage of folks who voted the way that they did voted. Well, that was wrong grammatically. That was terrible grammar. They voted the way that they voted. They voted for strength, or at least perceived strength. Real strength, I don't think, but at least perceived strength. And sometimes perception is everything. Trump campaign was excellent at perception, or at least fomenting, creating the perception that a simple tap on the shoulder from a trans person would just magically, this pixie dust would fall on your child and make them trans. Even though the policy of prisoners being able to get operations was a Trump regime era policy. But they created the fear. They created the misperception. Yeah. Anyway, look, I'm not advocating for lawlessness. And I think the Constitution, with all of its flaws, and remember, we mentioned on Tuesday that Jefferson himself said that the Constitution is a document, is a living document. It's not a fossil. It's not set in stone. It was written on paper, not carved in marble. It is something that should always be revisited, and should be changed, and it's why there's a process to amend it. But I do think the Constitution, with all of its flaws, the flaws that were written into it from the very beginning, I do still think it is the foundational document, along with the Declaration and the Federalist Papers are the foundational documents of the country, even with their flaws. Some flaws that we've fixed, others that we have yet to fix. So I'm not calling for lawlessness. I'm not calling for unconstitutionality. But we need to bring more than butter knives to these fights. We've got to be a hell of a lot tougher. The assassination, if you will, of the CEO of United Healthcare is a French Revolution type event, where the commoners are beheading the nobles. I don't advocate it, but I sure as hell understand it. And I don't think it'll be the last one. It's all the time we have for tonight. We return to you on Sunday from 6 p.m. Special thanks to T. Nathan for being here for the whole program. Superplex Party comes up immediately following us here on GCPR. T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. We will see you Sunday from 6 p.m. For everybody at GCPR, from everyone at TKE Tonight and the Kennedy Effect, I'm Jeff Kennedy. We'll see you Sunday evening. Superplex Party starts right now.